Welcome. My name is Donna Kapmeyer, and I am the CEO and firm owner of Action Coach of Coastal Bend and Capital Game Plan Consulting in South Texas, and I will be your host for today. I am extremely excited to have our special guest, Dan Watkins, on our show. Dan is a communications and business development manager at Principal Auto Group and the founder of 71seconds.com. Today, we're going to speak to Dan about both companies, his journey to get to where he is at today, and the challenges and successes that come from operating and owning a business. If this is your first time on our channel, please be sure to like and subscribe so you can get notifications when we publish new content. Well, Dan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for reaching out.
My pleasure. Let's start off by having you take a little moment to share with our audience a little about yourself, Principal Auto Group, and how your journey started with them.
Well, I've been in the automotive space for about 20 years. Started off at a group in Kansas for 15 years and then moved down to San Antonio about 5 years ago and found Principal Auto. Before that, my background was predominantly retail and sales and management. So if you remember Blockbuster Video back in the day, Best Buy, places like that. So I have a pretty wide range, but 40 plus years of experience in retail sales management marketing, all because a lot of times you wear all those hats at the same time, and that's kind of what has led me to my role at Principal Auto, where I'm doing the communications and the community development, corporate development, all those business development things that relate to our business here. So a long journey to get here and take advantage of my experience and skills.
Fantastic. Golly, what a story. What a long history, right? And you don't like to age yourself either, right? You're just getting started, as I like to say.
I joke with people that I sometimes get carded for alcohol and for the senior discount at the movie theater. So I'm in the middle range. So
that's the dilemma, right? Which one do I prefer? Awesome. So let's talk about Principal Auto Group and the challenges. So what do you believe to be some of your biggest challenges today in operating that business?
well, the automotive space has changed so dramatically, not only in the last 5 years, but in the last 20. I was doing some training at our store in Grapevine and Corpus Christi, and we were talking about how 20 years ago when I started in the business, 15 to 20% of our customers went online to research buying a vehicle. And now it's 90% plus. So our reputation online is absolutely critical to our success. And with COVID and the transition to battery electric vehicles and the transition to automated driving vehicles and the technology changes that are coming fast and furious, 20 years ago, you might have the same car for 6 model years. And now they're changing car models out every 2 to 3 years. I mean, the rapid pace of change in our industry is just mind blowing. We say it every year. All right, this year is going to be different than last year. And it's been very true. Just in the last 5 years, COVID hit us. We had supply chain issues where factories were shut down for 3 months, yet demand stayed the same. So there was no inventory on the new side. So used car prices actually appreciated in value, which is
Mhm.
unheard of. And then as the vehicles started to come in, then we had supply chain issues with parts. And then you had the war in Ukraine, and most people don't realize that Ukraine accounted for about 70% of all the wiring harnesses for automotive out of Europe. So
Wow.
that disrupted that supply chain. So, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, a lot of the brands from Europe had cars just sitting waiting for a wiring harness, and they had to ship that business elsewhere. BMW is one of our brands, and they sent a lot of that to South Carolina where they have the manufacturing facility, and there obviously that created opportunities. But the battery electric vehicles, I think COVID gave the manufacturers an opportunity to take a deep breath and then make the switch to battery electric faster than what the consumer was ready for, and
Mhm.
also what the infrastructure was ready for. Now, a lot of that has changed. 3 years ago, there were not 250,000 charging stations across the US, and now there are. So, the range anxiety and some of that that's keeping people from switching to battery electric is now starting to go away. And, I get asked a question all the time: are battery electric cars really good? And it's like, well, the best technology and the newest technology are in those cars. They have so many fewer moving parts. There's no oil changes in a battery electric car. There's no transmission fluid changes in a battery electric car. There's no gasoline needed. There's no radiator needed. The moving parts are basically the wheels and the gears. I mean, it's a totally different shift in our business as we switch to battery electric vehicles. The old grease monkey technician concept will go away because there's no grease on these
Yeah.
cars. So it's a very, very exciting time, lots of changes. And I've always been an agent of change. I've never been afraid of change. So I don't stress out about it. It's like, okay, how can we take advantage of this situation? How can we own this? And how can we make this better?
Golly, love that. Love that perspective. So, what do you believe differentiates your company from others that are in your industry? There's a lot of competition going on.
Yeah, well, there's, over 18,000 automotive retailers in the US, and that's just franchise dealers. If you throw in all the mom and pop used car shops and whatnot, or independent repair shops, we're talking 100,000 businesses in the US that are automotive related. What makes us different, just in a nutshell, a handful of things. Abigail Campman, our owner, is female, and there are not a lot of female owned businesses. There's not a lot of females that have her breadth and depth of experience. She has grown up in the car business, but she is a licensed attorney. And then when she got tired of that, she joined the family business on the car side, and she's been a service person. She's been an inventory person. She's been a general manager. So she brings a different perspective. And it's interesting, as the industry has shifted more online, relationships have become even more critical. And she's a fantastic relationship builder. So that focus, for our company really does, I think, give us an advantage and a differentiator. In fact, that we have a great leader like her that, is a female, and she's always sought after for her opinion on all of our manufacturers. She serves on several of the manufacturer boards for product, for example, and whatnot. Her legal background gives her keen insight into legalese behind a lot of the issues that are going on. Tesla is a direct to sale model, and some states don't allow that.
Hmm.
So a lot of legal involved in it. And she has a perspective of having worked in automotive and in legal. So I think she's unique, and I think that gives us a strong differentiator. As far as her feelings, she's a big fan of personal growth, and she has a library here in our home office, and she's always handing out books to people. And there's a lot of books that we've read based on her recommendation. And if you recommend a book, within a week or two, she's not only bought it, but read it and then bought 20 more copies to hand out to other people. So she's really big on personal development. And that's a strength of our company. I think we take time to train people. We hire the right people. We hire slow, we fire slow, and we like to put people in the right spot. The dealership is a very large, diverse workplace. What makes somebody a good parts manager would make them a terrible salesperson, and what makes somebody a very good salesperson may make them a terrible accountant, and so on. So we have a wide range of associates here, and I think she's really good at finding people and putting them in the right spot on the bus. And then she's led a lot of initiatives to get more women involved in automotive, and I think that's a perspective that's helpful for us, just based on the standpoint that relationship building is the key point, and ladies have a better knack. I think it's more intuitive for them than it is for us guys.
Love that. Love that. Man, what a great leader that you have in the organization. And the fact that she is so in tune with making sure that it gets shared across the organization. right? It helps with relationship building. It helps with retention, bringing in, I'll do the plug for Jim Collins, right? With good to
Yes.
great, right? And putting the right people in the right seats
And
cannot
built to
be
last.
emphasized enough. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So
She has good to great and built to last in the library.
beautiful, beautiful. You have to memorize it, right? And that's a go-to book for me to hand out.
I do know what a BHAG is. Yes.
There you
I'm
go. I was
very
just talking about that
ambitious
last week,
goal.
and they're looking at me
Yeah.
like, "What is that?" Uh, love it, love it. If you're watching the show and you don't know what BHAG is, go look it up. We're not going to give you the answer.
It's a good thing.
You bet. So let's talk about with all the changes going on, changes in administration, right? Change in regulations, change in mandates. What does the next 5 years from an aspiration perspective look like for you guys?
Well, we think there'll be growth in the automotive industry. Last year was the first year that battery electric or plug-in electric vehicles reached 20%. And that's kind of a critical marker in our industry that it's no longer the early adopters that are driving the electric vehicles or the plug-in hybrids. And a plug-in hybrid is a vehicle that is roughly 60 to 70% electric, and then the rest is internal combustion engine. And we like to call that the best of both world vehicle. So you have your electric for in town, but your gas for everything else. So you don't have it kind of overcomes the range anxiety, but it helps people ease into owning a fully battery electric vehicle, and we see that growing. We see the plug-in hybrid sector growing faster than the other sectors. Internal combustion will continue to go down, but with the change of administration, I think choice is becoming a key operative word, and I think the rate of change may slow a little bit as some people that are maybe not as ready to adopt battery electric will still have a longer period. So a lot of the manufacturers that said 2 years ago, we're going to be all electric by 27, and now saying we'll be all electric by 32, and they're pushing things out, and they're putting some money back into research and development on battery or on internal combustion to make them more efficient and better. Um, so I think as far as the business growing, we should see growth. She's always on a lookout for the next deal, and a lot of dealerships are still changing hands. And it's
Yeah.
not just the small ones being gobbled up by the large companies. Some of the large companies are saying, you know what, this store isn't a good fit for us because it's by itself, it's in its own market, or it's in a small market, or whatever the case may be. And that's an opportunity for us to grow as well. And of course, as always, there's growth from the manufacturers, and they may want to put, another Audi point in Austin, or
Mhm.
another Lexus store in another city, or, there's no Volvo store in Corpus Christi. There's no Lexus store in Corpus Christi. And if they were to want to put a store down there, we'd be raising our hand all day long wanting to get those stores because we already have a store there. And
Absolutely.
so I see that growth. The other thing that we're working on, and that's part of the corporate development side that I'm working on with our COO. His name is Ryan. He's new to our company, came from Auto Nations, which is a large publicly traded company, is some vertical businesses that support the automotive business. I mean, we don't want to open up a pizza chain, but
Hmm.
we might look at car washes. We might look at other things that support our automotive business. One of the things that we just announced to some of our staff at an awards ceremony that we've had at several of our locations is we partner with a company called Autocomplete. And every time a customer purchases a vehicle, they're going to get a link that if they decide to, they can shop their new vehicle's insurance at 20 large insurance companies. And it's a very simple thing. We just flip the switch, and when we're ready to go, and it works with, Progressive, Geico, all the big companies, Liberty Mutual,
Hmm.
Liberty, Liberty, Liberty,
Mhm.
that. So with all those companies,
Mhm.
when most people purchase a vehicle, that's when they shop their insurance. And insurance has changed a lot in the last 20 years, where you used to have the agent that your dad used and your granddad used, and you stay with that agent for 40 years. And now people change your insurance every 6 to 12 months based on who's giving them the best rate. So that's an opportunity. It's a vertical market for us. We don't have to hire insurance agents to be a part. That's what the third party vendor is, and we get a small override based on it. And because of our volume, the customer gets a great discount. We can save our average guest between 400 and 1100, depending on if they bundle, you know, going back to Liberty Mutual, if they bundle their home and or the renters with their auto and their RV and their motorcycle or whatnot. So it's an exciting announcement. A lot of our associates were pretty excited at that because, I mean, you know, for me, I'm going to be one of our first customers. I'm going to shop my insurance at 20 different places. The last time I purchased a vehicle, I only went to 2 or 3 places because I just got absolutely worn out doing all the forms and all the paperwork. It'd be nice to do one form and have go to 20 people and have the best 2 or 3 line up and say, we can save you $40 a month.
That's fantastic.
So that's where we see our business going is those supportive businesses that are automotive related and can be good sister companies and supportive to our main business, and then help our main business, which is selling and servicing vehicles.
Beautiful, beautiful, fantastic. So, when you think about success, who do you think about and why?
Well, for me, it's the big names. When we talk about 71seconds.com, one of the things that's done over the last 3 to 4 years is introduce myself to a lot of people I did not know existed. And I've been able to learn something from just about every single one of them, whether it's a perspective on things or um, perseverance, all those wonderful business trends that people have been writing books about for since Napoleon Hill and Dale Carnegie. And it's always fun to see a fresh perspective. But if I had to put some names down, it'd be obviously Elon Musk and, all it seems like everything he's touched has blown up. I admire Jeff Bezos, and the fact that Amazon last year did $187 billion in the fourth quarter. Walmart did 180 billion. And the net profit, Amazon had 4 times the net profit of Walmart. And they're growing at a faster clip than Walmart is. But, Walmart in and of itself was an amazing story and still is an
Yeah.
amazing story. So, if I had to pin it down to just one or two, it'd be like the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos and those internet pioneers, because there were a lot of people that didn't think any of that would ever last, would ever grow. And now, they're all, multi hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of market capital worth. It's an amazing thing. So I love those stories. I
That's
love those
fascinating. And
types
they
of
are
people.
amazing individuals. And gosh, who would have thought, right? We would be where we're at today because of them and doing things the way we do things today because of them,
Well,
right?
I jokingly told the Grapevine store just yesterday. I said, in my experience with Blockbuster Video, and I said, for those of you under 30, Blockbuster was a place where you actually went and picked up your movies on a cassette that was like a tape that you had to rewind because some of the younger folks in the room have only known streaming movies. And to think about, at one point there were 12,000 Blockbuster stores worldwide, and I think there's one left in Utah, in Oregon, and it's there almost as a museum, but they still rent, movies there. But and it was just, and it kind of took me back, and I thought, gosh, either I'm really old or businesses have changed rapidly. And I think it's just the rapid pace of
Yeah.
business. Businesses have risen and fallen so rapidly just because Blockbuster didn't stay fresh. They didn't start streaming. They were late to DVD. They were late to renting video games, and they were late to streaming, and they didn't make it. Netflix took over, and Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix at the very beginning and turned it down because they didn't think it would work.
I did not know that.
Yeah. it's a
Boy, what
it's
a
a scary
mistake.
thought. And you think about it, if you could go back in time and you were the CEO of Blockbuster, you said, you know what, yeah, let's do this works well. If you're in a pinch and want to watch a movie quick, here's our streaming service. But if you want to come to the store and browse and get the full experience of smelling the popcorn and seeing your favorite movie person who always has a good recommendation, we're right there. The best of both. They also missed out on Redbox. They were late. They had their blue boxes, but Redbox, you still see them around. They're
Yeah.
still in business. And Blockbuster was late to that too. And at the time, I was no longer with Blockbusters, but I still follow the movie business. And I was like, gosh, they could put a kiosk on every corner and then have a store in the middle and have one associate run around and empty those boxes out and put them back in. And you could say, look, we're so convenient. You can, sorry about that.
Good.
And you could take those DVDs and return them at any of the boxes, and the store would take care of it, so you wouldn't have to drive all the way to the store. We could maybe still have Blockbuster stores around now if they had just done that one thing, but hindsight's 2020, as we always say.
You bet. You bet. So, what is I say one or two things that excite you the most about the future of this business?
Oh, I just see, the technology coming in the cars is so amazing. If you've seen any of the new product, there's no more dials in the cars. Everything is an LED screen, and they're now customizing these screens. And there was a video several years ago that came out from Corning, of all people, the glass company,
Hmm.
about it was called A Day with Glass. And a lot of those things have started coming true, where you could take your cell phone and place it on the counter and then swipe it. And now the counter is your cell phone. And you take your cell phone and you place it in the docking port in the car, and the car customizes to your personal settings, the way you like the screen to look. Well, I like purple, not blue. And maybe your spouse likes green. And the car customizes and has your seat settings and your radio preferences and your XM Sirius preferences, your temperature preferences, all these things just automatically done for you simply. Um, they're integrating more of Alexa and Google search into the car, so where you can just ask questions of the car and the car answers. 5 years ago was very cumbersome. You had to do the I need an address 5814, and it would go, and then it would, and you go, nope, try again. And now it's just simple communication. And I see more of that happening and more technology in the cars. And I see them being easier to use. And that'll get us to the level 3, level 4 self-driving, to where being in a car is just, you're along for the ride, and the car does everything itself.
It's craziness to think that, but it's pretty awesome.
It's coming sooner than most people think. I think because of COVID, the big push was autonomous driving before COVID. And yes, battery electric is a part of that, because that makes things easier, more efficient, and you don't have to worry about gas, filling up with gas, because a self-driving car can recharge itself. Well, then COVID hit and autonomous driving went away because more people were at home and there was less driving on the roads.
Hmm.
Remember, there's not, I know here in San Antonio, when schools went back into session and businesses were coming back to in person in the office, traffic got really, really bad, because there was nobody on the roads before, and it was like,
Yeah.
boy, this is great. 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, I'm getting home in 20 minutes. Now it's 30 minutes. But so, yeah, I think the technology is just going to continue to grow in the cars, and it's going to be more seamless. And they're working on technologies where you don't even have to plug your car in to charge. You just pull into the garage. So like when you set your cell phone on the QI or the QI2 pad and it charges, so you don't have
Hmm.
to plug it in.
Yeah.
The cars are going to do the same thing. They'll charge through the tires and charge your vehicle. Because if you're like a lot of people, when you first got a cell phone, how often did you forget to plug it in at night? And
A
your
lot.
is dead. Now it's almost habit, and now we form the habit, and very seldom is my phone not above 50%.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to take the same thing to learn how to do a car. Instead of driving to the corner gas station and filling up, now we just pull into our garage and it happens.
Amazing. Amazing. I
It's going
can't
to be
wait to
fun.
see what that looks like. So relative to Principal Auto Group, what's the best way for our audience to get in contact with Principal Auto Group?
Well, like we have all of our websites, but if you don't know where our stores are located, we have 8 stores in 3 states. So it's easiest just go to principalauto.com. And I say it's principal with a PLE, not a PAL. That's your pal at school. Hopefully, it was your pal and not the person you went to see when you're in trouble. But we're principalauto.com, and it has links to all of our sites. And in fact, we put all of our inventory on that site. So if you want to see all the cars at all the stores at one spot, because outside of BMW, Toyota, Volvo, and the brands that we sell, we probably have another 40 brands, pre-owned vehicles, because we get Teslas and we get Rivians and Lucids and Chevys and Fords and Hondas and so on and so forth. So we have a little bit of everything.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, let's shift over to the 71seconds.com. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's a kind of a labor of love for me that started off. There's some reporting that I do every day for the dealerships, and I always wanted to do some kind of inspirational quote. Zig Ziglar said it best: is that you don't need motivation every day, but it's kind of like bathing; it's best to. And so it kind of grew from that, and then I started looking at the when I was trying to find quotes. I thought, well, there's birthdays and everybody has a birthday that's ever lived has a birthday. So I started looking at, say, February 28th, and who was born on February 28th, and is there somebody on that day that was inspirational or has something that will make somebody think. And so that's how it morphed into the quote of the day. And then I've started using some artificial intelligence, and it suggested the vibe of the day because I wanted to make it more trendy. So now I've changed it to the vibe of the day. And so the vibe of the day is basically a focus on one individual who was born on that day. And I list all the rest of the people that were born on that day through history, that are of significance. I mean, sometimes I just choose the oldest one, 24 BC, this person was born, and here's what they did. And a lot of it is pop culture and politics and whatnot, because those are the people that have made headlines. But because of the business nature of it, I really like hearing the story about Dow Chemical or Heinz or any of those. And I've taken a particular fondness for the 110 founding fathers who signed one or more of the four foundational documents, the Declaration of Independence and so on. And they have such a wide variety of backgrounds and stories. Some of them don't have much about them at all, but you've heard of Benjamin Franklin and Thomas
Mhm.
Jefferson and some of those names. And it's I've kind of taken a fascination. 71 seconds came from, I was looking for something simple for people to remember. So I thought, well, if I make these short videos in the TikTok and the Snapchat age where you have very short clips, or YouTube shorts, if we could put together 60-second clips that people get every day and be able to hear and get inspired in 60 seconds. Well, 60seconds.com was taken, 61seconds.com was taken, and the first one available was 71seconds.com. So it's very short and simple to remember. Then I started looking at, um, a lot of people are into numbers and numerology, and 71 is a business number. If you look up, numerology 71, it has relation to success, business, and wealth, and personal development. I thought, okay, well, that fits with the concept that I'm trying to build here. And then I also realized that 71 seconds is also 1 minute and 11 seconds.
Mhm.
And I am a spiritual person. So 111 is the Trinity, and it has numerology and goosebump inducing, meaning behind it as well. So I thought, okay, this can't be a coincidence because all these things lined up and built this. The other thing about 71 seconds on the vibe of the day that I do is I talk about the 7 daily focuses, because right now what I see, and you've probably seen this in your work as well, the Gen Y, Gen Z, it's all about balance in life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my generation, we're okay with working 85 hours a week because
Mhm.
that's how we were brought up: work hard, work hard, work hard. And that's why the divorce rate in our group is so high. But if we could find more balance in life, and it's like, well, then how do we find balance in life? How do you know that you're doing enough here and more here? And there's 6 focuses that I talk about. And the first one on Monday is professional. So that's the day for me that I look at all my Chamber of Commerce events and my business for the week, and where do I need to be, when and where, for personal development as far as business, my professional life. Tuesday is financial. I look at my retirement accounts. I look at, do I have any credit cards due this week? I make sure my bills are paid, for the week. Wednesday is a personal day, and that's the day where, you get a massage, mani-pedi, you do retail therapy. Thursday is fiscal. I make sure that Thursday is my workout day. Now, I do work out other days of the week as well, but Thursday is the day that I'm focused on that. And maybe that's the day I spend an hour instead of 30 minutes. And
Hmm.
maybe I take the dog for a walk, and just kind of clear the mind. Uh, Friday is mental because our mental capacity is very important. So that is the day that I make sure that if I'm reading something, it challenges my mind, or if I'm playing a word game or something, Wordle or whatever the case may be. But I want to challenge my mind because I don't want to be retired and successful and not remember where I hid my own Easter eggs. And then Saturday is charitable because I think that's important as well. And it's giving of time or money to others. So, like, in San Antonio, in less than 2 months now, we have the Final Four in town, and we also have
Hmm.
the Texas Valero Open. And that's
Hmm.
an opportunity to volunteer because that's important for the growth of San Antonio. And so I make sure that we do things like that. And we encourage our associates to do the same thing. Then it all wraps up on Sunday, and Sunday is kind of the binding force, the spiritual day, whether it's go to church, practice yoga, go hiking in the wilderness, and just kind of clear the head, whatever the case may be. And that's how Sunday kind of is that foundational source. And what I found is when you start focusing each day on, spending 10 to 15 minutes on that one focus, it's not to the ignorance of the others. You're still paying attention to the others because obviously if a bill comes due on a Friday, I pay it. I don't wait till Tuesday and tell the bill collector, no, you're going to get paid on Tuesday. But it's about finding that balance. And I find that I've had more inner peace because I don't have the stress about all of it at once. I just have to take it one bite at a time. And I found that I've been able to save more and invest more, which has helped the financial side of things. I've been able to spend more time in reading and reading, things that fit those days. So I've helped my personal development grow. I've helped my career grow the same way. I've helped my spiritual life grow. The satisfaction of doing the charity work and helping out like with Pets Alive and things like that has helped me out from a standpoint of feeling good about myself. So, and I found that there are levels to each of those. And the example that I use when I talk about this is you've heard of people that win the lottery and all of a sudden their financial is taken care of and they're at a 10 on their financial life. But if the rest of their life stays at a 2 or a 3 or a 5, then it's kind of like the Flintstones when he got a flat tire on his, wheel. It whittles down because how many times do you hear about the Powerball winner that won 40 million, quit their job, haha, and then 3 years later they're looking for work
Yeah.
because they burned through the money, bad investments, whatever. They didn't learn enough, they didn't educate themselves, they didn't surround themselves with the right people, whatever the case may be. And so that's where the 7 daily focuses come in, and I just find it provides a piece in trying to process this fast-paced life that we live in because we're all in fast-paced life. There's never enough time in the day to get enough done, so on and so forth. And that includes, family and business and pets and self and all those things.
All those things called life.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I've had the fortune to take a sneak peek at the website, and it's 71, the number 71 seconds.com. So for our audience members, please go check it out because it is very, very inspirational.
And I've put some YouTube videos together. So if you YouTube 71 seconds, there's some of them are actually 1 minute and 11 seconds. I've had to edit it down to get it that way. And some of them are longer, but you know, um, I had somebody ask me about, well, you've lost some weight. What are you doing differently? I says, well, I've been researching foods that are, hypoglycemic and are really good catabolic foods. And I try to eat more of those foods. Well, what kind of foods? And I thought, well, that sounds like a good story, a good video to put together. So I put together a video of the top 10, foods that if someone's worried about their sugar level in their blood, but also want to still eat food instead of just eating, grain all the time, this is something that you can do. And it's So it's kind of fun. I put a lot of videos and they're tied to the days of the week. So if something is for, 7 questions to help you get through any uh, challenge, and that's part of the mental, then it shows up as a Friday mental 7 ways to help you get through any challenge. And like I said, I'm always reading and researching and seeing things and, you know, finding a little piece of this and a little piece of that and putting it together and making it new. So that's kind of the thought process behind it.
Well, fantastic. Well, Dan, we greatly appreciate you sharing your story. This has just been, say, not only just amazing because you're on the cutting edge, you're on the leading edge in so many areas. And I really hope that our audience finds the information valuable and inspiring. This is the Business Spotlight series with Donna Kapmeyer from Action Coach of the Coastal Bend and Dan Watkins with Principal Auto Group and 71seconds.com. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you can continue to see our great content. Thank you for being with us today, and bye for now.
Bye bye.